Good morning, Shavua Tov. It is a great pleasure to be here. First, I want to convey my gratitude to Chief Rabbi Goldstein for inviting me to this incredible event. I'm very happy to be here, very honored, and I'm really impressed. We're going to study today one pasuk from the Torah. Guess which pasuk we are going to study? The first one, okay? You won't need a text. I will walk you through this verse, which is probably, if not the most important, one of the most important verses in the Hebrew Bible, in the Torah. So the pasuk says, Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim vehet haaretz. So first let's see the plain meaning of the words. Bereshit means in the beginning. Actually, Bereshit is a little complicated as a word because it's construed in what is called smichut. And literally it means in the beginning of. So the Torah starts with an enigma because this word in the beginning of is followed by a verb. In the beginning of, created God created heavens and earth. So the traditional explanation of it, there are many. For example, Nachmanides says, Bereshit should be understood in the beginning of time. In our own words, we could say that this in the beginning of means in the beginning of all beginnings. All right? So that's the first word. It's giving us the fact of time. When did this happen? Second word, Bereshit bara. What is bara? God created. And there are at least three ways to express creation in Hebrew, in biblical Hebrew. The word bara is very, very specific. The word bara means creation ex nihilo, creating something from nothing previous. This word or this verb, bara, appears 3 times in the first chapter of Bereshit, in the chapter that deals with creation. It is a matter of an exquisite precision of the Torah, as we will see later on, how this verb is used, or when this verb is used. But right now, bara means that Hashem created Shamayim Ba'aretz, the universe, from nothing previous. It's a very important point, because in ancient times, there was a debate about philosophers, scientists in those times, how the world came about. So, for example, Aristotle thought that the world was eternal. Plato thought that there was some primeval matter in a chaotic state from which God created the world. But following Plato's idea, God was not really the creator of the world. He brought order from chaos. He didn't create the world ex nihilo. According to our belief, Hashem created the world from nothing previous. Ex nihilo. Okay? There are other ways to say creation, like for example, litzor, which means to give form to something previous, from the word tzura, or la'asot, which means to make, to improve, or to take something to a second level of creation. These words appear in the first chapter. But as I said, right now we understood the second word, right? Bara, which means creation ex nihilo. Without any doubt, the most important and relevant word of this verse is the next word, which is Elohim, Hashem, God. This is the message of this verse. We don't really care so much about when the world was created or how the world was created. The most important existential question is who created the world? If the world is here just by a great mistake, or if it is here by design, by the design of an intelligent designer, by the creator. Elohim is the most important word. And unlike science doesn't have any answer to the existence of something rather than nothing. They explain the Big Bang, of course, the big explosion of immensely condensed matter and energy in one initial point, but they cannot explain how this point of mass and energy was there to begin with. And we don't have that problem because we believe in the Creator. And of course, there are some questions you can ask from a scientific point of view that you should not ask from a theological point of view. You must ask where this point of matter came from. But you don't need to ask who created the Creator. Who created the Creator will be as awkward to us as if you say, if the Creator created the world, who created the Creator? Will be as if you were asking, if the baker baked the bread, who baked the baker? Okay? Because by definition, God is the Creator, and you cannot apply creation to God. But science should, and it failed, to explain where this immense point of matter, energy, whatever, came from. Clear? So that's the main point. Hashem is a creator of the world. Created it from nothing, at the most absolute beginning. What did he create? Et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. What does the word shamayim means? It's translated by heavens or heaven or the heavens. Doesn't make any difference. And what does it mean, shamayim? To understand shamayim, we have to understand Aretz. Aretz means planet Earth. And in this specific context, shamayim, heavens, appears in syntagmatic opposition to Eretz, to Earth. In other words, heavens is everything in the universe except planet Earth. So, our verse is saying, in the beginning God created et hashamayim, the whole universe. We are talking about 200 billion galaxies with more or less 200 billion stars, each galaxy, with an undefined number of planets around every star. Impossible to fathom, right? But the Torah describes the immensity of the cosmos with just one word, shamayim. Then, although there is no proportion size-wise, the Torah uses just one word, another word, to depict our own planet, ve'et haaretz, and planet Earth. Now, it is a very special planet. Why is planet Earth a very special planet? I'm not talking right now from a spiritual point of view. I'm talking from the point of view of physics, geology, if you wish. It's even astronomy. Why planet Earth is such a special planet. Why? What does it have? Well, that will be the subject of the second verse. The second verse takes the word aretz and elaborates on it. Veha'aretz hayta tohu vavohu, which I don't think I'm going to have time to explain this verse today, or maybe in the second lecture, but just to give you a very brief description of it, very brief. The main point of that verse is that planet Earth has something that till now we have not found anywhere else in the cosmos. Do you know what I'm talking about? Liquid water. Liquid water. And if you pay attention, close attention, because we are reading the Torah, we have to pay attention to every single word. The word water or oceans is mentioned twice in the second verse. Vechoshech al penei tehom, the word tehom, popular wisdom notwithstanding, doesn't mean abyss. It means, as Rashi says, yam, ocean, the primitive oceans. And then this verse ends with that word again. Veruach Elohim merachefet al penei hamayim. And Ruach Elohim was hovering on the face of the water. Okay, twice is mentioned, oceans and water. Is that clear then? We got an idea of what we're talking about. In the beginning, Hashem created heavens and our planet, planet Earth. All right. Let's go a little deeper, especially into the first word. The first word, in the beginning. I was always interested, curious, about the compatibility between science and Torah. I'm a Jew, I'm an observant Jew. I believe in our tradition. But as a young man, many years ago, I was moved because I learned about evolution, I learned about the Big Bang, and I didn't know who to believe. So in my book, Awesome Creation, which is a study on the first 3 verses of the Torah, in the first chapter, I try to analyze Big Bang theory and compare it with what the Torah says. Not from an apologetic point of view, as you will see right now. And I discovered something that I want to share with you. Something about the Big Bang that is not explained in schools or even in college when they describe the Big Bang theory. The Big Bang theory is the closest science has arrived to the concept of creation. It was never such a closest encounter between science, specifically cosmology or cosmogony, and the Hebrew Bible, as with the advancement of the Big Bang theory. Let me explain to you why. Because for centuries, beginning, let's say, with Aristotle, or even before him, in the Near Eastern myths of creation, there was never any description of a point of beginning for the universe. Scientists, philosophers assumed that the universe was eternal. What brought Aristotle to this thought? He saw the circularity of the cosmos. He saw that the sun appears every time in the same place or in a predictable place, and saw the moon and the stars and the planets. He saw circularity. So scientifically speaking, from what he saw, the universe didn't have any beginning. And that was the popular wisdom in those days. And we, the people of the book, the people who believed in creation and in the first word of the Torah, which says, in the beginning, there was a beginning, were always on the defensive side. We always defended ourselves. We were apologetic. We had to justify our Torah against the wisdom of science. Can you imagine what would have happened in public schools in, I don't know, in the 15th century? What are you talking about? What's your Torah is nonsense. Look, all scientists are saying that the world is eternal. What makes you think that you will know better? Why would you go with your theology against the findings of science? But what happened? The first word of the Torah was discovered by scientists in 1930. 1930. And the one to whom we owe this discovery was Edwin Hubble. He had a very powerful telescope. So he was the first one to discover that there are other galaxies besides our Milky Way. And he counted like 60 galaxies. We know today the number, right? And he saw something else. Very briefly, he saw that the universe or the galaxies were moving away from each other. And the further the galaxies were, the faster they were going. It took a little 10 years or so until someone called George Gamow elaborated the theory, and it's a very simple thing. You just move backward the film, and if all the galaxies are expanding outward, what would you see if you move the film backwards? That at one point, everything converged into, they say, a ball of fire at the beginning. Then it was like a baseball ball. Then it was like a ping pong ball. This is true. Today they think about a point, but a little dot of mass and energy together. But that's the theory. It's a very simple theory. And they said, at one point, this dot of energy and mass, which is there, we don't know why, or by some quantum miracle, all right, it exploded again by some quantum miracle. They don't say miracle, sorry. I say miracle. But they don't have any answer for this. It exploded and it created everything we see and we don't see in the universe, including life. All right? Now, how to look at the Big Bang Theory from the point of view of Judaism? First of all, I think we should celebrate that science has discovered the first word of the Torah. And that is where I get a little bit upset that in schools or in college, they don't teach you this coincidence between science and the Torah. They don't tell you, look, the Big Bang is a revolutionary theory that discovered or found that the universe had a beginning. It made secular scientists very, very mad. I quote in my book a few of them, like Albert Einstein or Mr. Arthur Eddington. Albert Einstein deliberately kept away from the Big Bang model or any cosmological theory that postulated a beginning. But this was because of the consequent theological implications rather than for any scientific reasons. They understood that the beginning of the universe conveys an idea too close to the notion of creation. You bet. Arthur Eddington admitted explicitly, quote, philosophically, the notion of a beginning of the present order of nature is repugnant to me. I should like to find a genuine loophole. I close the quotations. This is more or less 1935, 1940. They were very upset. Actually, even today, scientists are trying to avoid this notion of a beginning. I don't want to go into details, but I give you one or two examples. The idea of the Big Crunch. The Big Crunch is an idea completely theoretical with no evidence in physics or astrophysics that in the same way that the universe is now expanding, it will go back again and explode again and in a circular way, which doesn't imply the idea of a beginning. Secular scientists hate the idea of a beginning because a beginning implies a beginner or somebody that began that, implies a creation. Or another theory, I think that Carl Sagan was the first that said this, is the multiverses. There is not just one universe. There are many universes. Is there any proof for that? No. It's just a theory to say that this universe doesn't have anything in particular, especially a beginning. There are many other universes there. Again, no evidences. This is pure faith, if you wish, or bias. Now, as I said, as a Jew, I celebrate that after thousands of years, scientists discover the first word. I'm sure my great-grandparents were always proud of their legacy. And now I can say I'm a prouder. You know, we had this information that only now is discovered, which makes me think also that perhaps today we have some challenges. There are some differences between science and Torah that, to tell you the truth, I don't have the absolute response for them. But what makes you think that we need to find all the responses today? The nature, the very nature of scientific research is that progress is made in science as scientists discover some previous flaws in previous beliefs. That's the nature of science. And the bigger the flaw, the previous mistake, the bigger the discovery will be. So if I don't find all the answers today, it's fine. Maybe my son will do it. Maybe your son. Maybe your grandchildren. But the Torah is emet. The Torah is truth. It doesn't change. There is no progress in that sense that we amend the Torah all the time. We never amended it. Can you imagine if somebody would have said in the 15th century, let's accommodate the Torah to the scientific knowledge. Let's change a little bit, just the first word. Forever God created heavens and earth. Let's do that. Why not? We have to take into consideration scientific knowledge. We didn't. Okay. So, this is the big coincidence between the Big Bang and what our Torah says, right? What are the differences? Let me point out to two differences. The first difference is that we Jews do not believe in in the knowledge of cosmogony or cosmology. We don't believe that we can have access to the second word of the Torah, to bara, to how did Hashem created the world. And if we try to do so, it will only be a reflection of our own reality. Let me explain it to you with a mashal. This metaphor was first formulated by Maimonides in Moreh Nevuchim. I'm going to adapt it a little bit to our modern times. Imagine that robots like intelligent scientists come from a different planet, from a different galaxy, planet X, and they want to study the human species. And they kidnap a 3-year-old boy. They bring it to their spaceship, and they study him. And they see that this boy, Adam, he eats with his mouth, he breathes with his nose, and he drinks, he needs water, he moves around, he talks, and he expands, he grows. So after 1 month, they give it back to his desperate mom, and now they take all the results to their planet, and they start to elaborate their theories about the human species, about humans, humankind. So they present their facts and their research, and they say, you know, humans, they eat, they drink, they think, they have a circulatory system, respiratory system, they have a heart, they have this, they have that. And they also grow. So let's talk about growing. We found that Adam grew 0.8 centimeters in 1 month. Our assessment then is that humans grow 10 centimeters every year. Our assessment then is that Adam in 10 years is going to be 1.5 meters, and in 20 years 2.5 meters, in 30 years 3.5 meters, and in 40 years 4.5 meters, and so on. Are they going to be wrong? Yes or not? Methodologically, no. Methodologically, they are okay. They are right. Because they are just taking the facts they have seen in the growth of Adam, and they just extrapolate. Very simple. But we know the facts, and they are wrong. Let's take it to the other side. Now they want to investigate or to research how was Adam born. What do you think a scientist from planet X can figure out about the birth of Adam? Question: could he ever think or fathom pregnancy? Is that possible for planet X scientists? Absolutely not. At least because of 2 factors. Number 1, because all the laws of pregnancy contradict the laws of physiology. If some crazy guy will come and say, oh, maybe he was in the womb of another human being, and this is how he was born. Are you crazy? We saw that Adam needs to eat and drink and breathe. That's impossible. What are you talking about? Come on. What would be the logical conclusion of planet X scientists? That Adam, of course, was, if growing right now, he was smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. At one point, he was as big as a baseball ball, and then as a ping pong ball, and then he was 1 centimeter tall. That's the logical conclusion, that's the extrapolation that you would do. And they would have to explain how his organs function and worked with this immense density. He was eating 0.0000001 millimeter of food and 0.00001 of water, etc., etc., etc. That's all the conclusion I can get. What else is missing? What else is missing here? What other information is missing from this scientist? They never saw a woman. They don't know all the facts. They will never imagine pregnancy. That's the mashal, that's the metaphor. So let me go back to the Big Bang theory and see if you understand what Maimonides says. Maimonides says cosmology is like embryology. We live in our reality, physics. Physics is like physiology. You cannot deduce embryology from physiology. These are two completely different systems. From a certain point of view, they are like opposite systems. Laws of physiology cannot apply to the laws of embryology and vice versa. Okay? But now, because we live in the world of physics, embryology is inaccessible to us. It's not just unknown, it is unknowable. And it is beyond the power of our imagination. You understand? This is why the rabbis, our rabbis said that Maaseh Bereshit, the events of the creation of the world, are part of the secrets of the Torah. Not secret in the sense that somebody here knows it and doesn't want to tell us. Secrets or Sitre Torah means that this is information that is not accessible to us. All we can do is to imagine, but again, we're going to project what we know. So in 10 minutes I have, I want to deal a little bit with the issue of time. Because as you see, I said that there are two major one coincidence with the Big Bang, moment of creation, beginning. Two main differences. There are more, but two main differences. First of all, we don't believe in cosmogony. What the Big Bang theory is doing is what? What Planet X scientists did. The only thing they can do is just bring back the movie. But there is no embryology here. They cannot get to the embryology, how the universe was brought into existence by Hashem. And they don't know, well, in the example of Planet X scientists is the woman. Tibiachol, in our example, is Hashem. They don't know or they don't take into consideration the existence of God. In the same way, you will never get to embryology if you are a Planet X scientist and you don't know women. You will never get to creation if you don't believe in a creator. Clear? Now, let's go very briefly to the issue of time. In my book, I write like 5 different answers. Things that I have answered for myself, for my own curiosity. So I'm going to give you 1 or 2 answers, which perhaps each one of these answers does not answer everything, but it's a beginning. The first answer is taken from Chazal, from our rabbis, from the Talmud. They explained what did the world look like when it was created. And of course, they based themselves in a pasuk. The Torah says that Hashem created the fruit trees loaded with trees. Pasuk 12, verse 12 in chapter 1. What does it mean that they were loaded with trees, with fruits? Fruit trees loaded with fruits. Etz peri ose peri lemino. It means, they said, that kol ma'asei bereshit bekomatan nibra'u. All the creations of Bereshit were created in their final stature. They were created already evolved. So the tree was not created as a seed, was a sapling. It was created as an evolved tree with fruits and everything. Chachamim said, everything in creation was created like that. So we Jews, we don't have the question of the chicken and the egg. The chicken was created as a chicken, not as an egg, because the evolved state of the chicken is as a chicken. Let me introduce you to this man here. Do you see him? Adam HaRishon, the first man. Now, what do you see? It was created 5 minutes ago. Take my word for it. 5 minutes ago. I want to ask you, what do you see? Do you see a baby here? Do you? Right? Do you see a 8 years old boy? 13, bar mitzvah? 18? Well, the Gemara says, the Talmud says, that it was created with the body of a 20-year-old young man. 20 years. You will be seeing here a young man. But I know it was created 5 minutes ago. But it was created with a body of 20. Kol ma'aseh bereshit v'komatan nibra'u. It was created already evolved. Now you are scientists, honest scientists. And I built a time machine. And I'm bringing you here to examine Adam HaRishon and to tell me, according to your honest assessment, how old do you think he is? What would you say? Would any of you say that this young man is 5 minutes old? Would you? No one. If you're an honest scientist, you will say, well, between 18 and 22. That's what you will say. You will measure his bones, and that will be probably your own conclusion. Now, let's go to the facts. Is Adam HaRishon 5 minutes old or 20 years old? Both. If creation happened, if creation ex nihilo happened the way our rabbis said, that everything was created, evolved, then necessarily you will find always two different ages simultaneously. He's 5 minutes, factually 5 minutes old, but he has a body, or he is, it's a game of semantics, he's 20. He has a body of 20. So both ages are right, are not only right, they are necessary. You cannot expect scientists to say 5 minutes old. Oh, that's us. We know the truth. But the fact that it was created, evolved, it gives you these two different simultaneous ages. The same thing with the planet. All right. I say 6 days, you say 6 billion years. What's the difference? You are just calculating how long would have taken to the world to get to what it is without God's intervention, without the act of creation. So you can just name your number. It's fine. It's fine with me. That's answer number one. Something similar and incredible happens also with, let's say, the age of the cosmos. Every day, 3 times a day, we Jewish people, we say in our prayers that Hashem is the creator of the world and also the one that expands heavens. We knew about the expansion of heavens from a long time ago. The first one that formulated this was David HaMelech in Tehillim, Kuf Dalet Barechi Nafshi. He said, Noteh Shamayim. Hashem is the one that stretches, expands heavens. Now, if Hashem is expanding heavens, and he, let's say, places galaxy A here, and then galaxy B 1 million years away from galaxy A, what did Hashem create besides these two galaxies? Space-time. He also created, it was created as a byproduct 1 million years, or 1 billion years. You as a scientist, you will say, well, necessarily these two galaxies, it must have passed 1 billion years between, until they got here. But Hashem is not a Shamayim, he just put it there at the pace of Hashem, which is not limited by the speed of light. Do you see how compatible it is? Last answer, and then I'm going to wrap up. This is a little more complicated, but when did the first day begin? When did the first day end? Vayere vayboker yom echad. It is a transition between darkness and light, day and night, what creates the first day, right? So when did the first day begin? Not the text of the first day, which began undoubtedly in the first pasuk. But when did the first day begin? In pasuk 3. When there is or, which is actually the element that will, by its appearance or disappearance, will define the day, right? If the first day began in pasuk 3, so we have an incredible possibility here, hinted by the famous Tiferet Israel, that perhaps eons of time might have elapsed between the first verse and the appearance of light. You understand? I will just leave it here. So, when your point of departure is the Torah, it is not just that we are not finding anything that contradicts the Torah. We are finding what we were supposed to find. We are finding this discrepancy in ages. We were supposed to find that. But again, that's our point of departure. Our Torah that doesn't change. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.